breaking news.
Welcome to our viewers all around the world. I am Miles O'Brien reporting live from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, where we are now just moments away from the arrival of NASA's Opportunity rover on the surface of Mars after a journey of in excess of 300 million miles. That particular spacecraft right now is just about to enter the atmosphere. It actually just has about 40 seconds ago. And it is in the process of speeding up and gaining a tremendous amount of heat, traveling now 12,000 miles an hour plus 5,400 meters per second. Live pictures now inside the control rooms here, various control rooms here at the Jet Propulsion Lab, as the mission management team, the engineers, and everybody stands focused on Opportunity in its final moments of its trip. These last few minutes of this long journey are perilous indeed and tense for the mission control team. Just to give you a sense of what's coming up, 3 minutes after the hour, 3 minutes and 41 seconds after the hour, the parachute will deploy. This craft will be going Mach 2, twice the speed of sound. It is a supersonic capable parachute. Shortly thereafter, the airbags, which will protect the craft, inflate around it. It will eventually bounce on the surface, those airbags designed to protect it from damage. 5 minutes and 4 seconds after the hour, the retro rockets or braking rocket will fire, and just very shortly thereafter, only 6 seconds later, that inflated bag with Opportunity inside will bounce for the first time on the surface of Mars. It'll bounce dozens of times after that before finally landing safely. Joining us to walk us through these perilous moments, the 6 minutes from hell, as it is often called here at Jet Propulsion Lab, is Matt Gullenbeck, who is one of the scientists who was instrumental in choosing this particular landing site, as well as the landing site for Spirit 3 weeks ago. Matt, good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Have we heard anything to give us pause for concern yet?
No, they have the signal. It is, they're getting the beeps. They've gone through the 1G. They've gone through maximum deceleration. They're hearing from the spacecraft. It's perfect.
All right, so far so good. We have proven, of course, that this design works. That happened 3 weeks ago, but of course designs are one thing. Whether all the components of an individual spacecraft work together is another matter. So far that appears to be the case. The parachute will be deploying now in about 8 seconds time. This is a key moment. We have some animation where we can show you this whole sequence which brings the spacecraft down to the surface. No less than 50 explosive firings have to occur in a rapid succession in order for this to occur. Why don't you walk us through the sequence, Matt?
Basically, we are in it now. We still have tone from the spacecraft. It does a series of tones to indicate different events have occurred. They are just about to pop the parachute. That is a supersonic chute, about 60 kilometers altitude or so. Still waiting for the second tone on that.
All right. Now, you're waiting for a tone which would indicate that the parachute is deployed.
Yes.
We are, supposedly, it should have happened about 25 seconds ago. Why don't we, do you want to listen in on Mission Control for just a moment? We can show live pictures there of Mission Control. Have you heard an indication as to whether it has deployed?
Right.
1,219 miles per hour. Our Mach number is 2.2. Our deceleration rate is 0.9 Gs. Deploy on my mark, expected parachute deploy, that is, mark. This time parachute should have deployed. We are waiting confirmation that has occurred. At this time the vehicle should be going subsonic. Current altitude 25,000 feet.
This is a key moment, obviously, Matt. We're waiting for confirmation that parachute is deployed.
Waiting for the tone.
Parachute deploy has been detected.
All right.
Parachute deployed. All right. Key moment there.
So they have the tone. The tone to indicate the parachute's been deployed. That's an excellent sign.
All right. Now, the next key moment to watch out for is the radar will become active very soon. It will acquire the ground.
They'll actually measure the closing velocity. There'll be a tone on that.
And supposedly it will come within the next 30 seconds. Let's go back to that
Heat shield
animation.
is dumped off.
Okay.
That's critical. And now the radar altimeter would be seeking the ground.
All right, and that is obviously important because that will dictate when you, with what you see on the screen there, when those braking rockets will fire. Right?
And to inflate the airbags for the first bounce, and in fact the whole timing sequence to cut the tether.
Now, the parachute was opened a little earlier than on the case of Spirit. This is of higher elevation than the Gusev crater, Spirit's location, but also the density of the atmosphere wasn't quite what was modeled, was it?
Actually, it is. The dust storm has passed. It's gone now to pretty much a nominal atmosphere. So we think that probably wasn't we just wanted a little more timeline on the parachute.
All right, let's listen to Wayne Lee, who is the chief engineer for entry, descent, and landing for just a moment.
The radar has a positive lock on the ground. We have a retro
Okay, the radar.
Retro rocket ignition on my mark. At this time, the retro rocket
has fired.
We have confirmation.
Okay. Radar rockets have fired.
Confirmation of positive signals bouncing on the ground. At this time, we are 5 minutes, 55 seconds after entry. We should be bouncing on the ground.
So at this
now
moment, it should be on the ground.
It's bouncing. All right, we got the signal from the bounce.
So we have literally followed this spacecraft all the way down, which is a remarkable thing.
And now we'll see what happens. It bounced and bounced. Remember last time we missed it for 10 minutes.
That was a long 10 minutes, as I recall.
Maintain lock. We need to reacquire the signal to have positive confirmation of a safe landing.
Okay, so they've lost it as they did the last
spacecraft
time.
is bouncing on the surface of Mars and rolling around. The antenna is pointed in many different orientations.
We're seeing it on the
Wayne Lee
LTP.
explaining the obvious.
They got the signal.
They got the signal. So it's spinning around. These antennas are spinning around, and yet it is still transmitting back some 100 million miles across space.
Signal in the left-hand polarization channel, indicating that
Still there.
we still have a safe
We're getting a
lander.
signal on RCP as well.
We are
Both channels.
Both channels.
We're on Mars, everybody.
I'm telling you, they made it look easy there. That isn't easy to do,
Well,
is
and every single time the engineers tell you that don't expect to see the signal.
and right-hand polarization.
All right,
The airbag
we're on Mars.
and roll for approximately another 8.5 minutes.
it? There you see NASA Administrator Sean O'Keefe in the maroon shirt there, right part of your screen. Ed Weiler in charge of space science for NASA. Happy moments for them. They were cautioning because of 3 weeks ago with Spirit, things went so well that today they were cautioning us not to expect that. Of course, prior to the arrival of Spirit, what we were all thinking about was 4 years prior with Mars Polar Lander when things did not go so well, when NASA tried to reach the surface of Mars. And this time, once again, that concept of sending things down inside airbags proves to be a very robust way to arrive at a remote
Robust way
location.
to go. And now we have confirmation the spacecraft has stopped moving.
All right, and there's Rob Manning.
That's Rob Manning getting hugs by Richard Cook, who was the flight system director.
Rob Manning is the man in charge of getting to this
EDL,
point.
the entire EDL sequence. That's Wayne Lee, the chief engineer for EDL, and that's Miguel San Martin next to him. And just on the left there is Glenn Reeves, the flight software chief. So he's obviously busy lately.
It's just remarkable to me that it could go through all we had just witnessed, spinning, tumbling, bouncing, and they could see it the whole way.
Well, and they've always warned us from the very beginning that don't expect to see the tone the whole way down. We're farther from Mars. It's a weak tone. It's the equivalent of an 8-watt light bulb. And to see it this whole way is spectacular.
Now, what can we expect? All right, first of all, short-term expectations for this evening. Well, look, they had a broom there.
A broom? Did you see the peanuts? They were eating peanuts.
They were eating peanuts for good luck. It obviously worked. Sean O'Keefe, the NASA administrator, wearing the same clothes he wore 3 weeks ago. Maybe that did it. The point is, an image should come down. It takes a little bit of time now for it to unwrap itself from its pedals and its airbag, depending on which pedal it lands on. It might take longer than others, right?
Right, and actually we have more time. We landed about an hour earlier for Meridiani than we did for Gusev. So we actually have more time to open up. And the first downlink of images would be on the Odyssey Pass, which would be at about 1 a.m. this morning.
All right, that's 1 a.m. Pacific time.
Pacific time.
So everybody can make the conversions depending on where you happen to lie for that. But the point is, we can say with some surety here, actually rock solid surety, that opportunity has arrived on the surface of Mars and is well enough at least to tell us that it's there.
It's there and it's functioning. It's come to rest on the surface. That's what I call a safe landing.
All right. And assuming all goes well, we in fairly short order, a couple hours' time, once the Mars Odyssey, which is a NASA satellite circling the planet Mars, once it passes overhead, it will have a communication session with Opportunity. With any luck, a raft of new images from a part of Mars never seen before by human eyes will be relayed through it and back here to Earth. And we will be watching it here very closely at the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena. And we will bring that to you as soon as we get those images in.
We actually have a UHF pass with MGS. During the landing, Mars Global Surveyor was overhead and was receiving a signal the entire time. And there will be telemetry, engineering telemetry in that we'll receive very shortly.
All right, so lots more confirmation to come, and of course those wonderful images that we want to see. Let's listen for just a moment here.
Communications from the lander after landing.
Or in the control room, we're told Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger is here.
After landing.
That's David Baltimore, the president of Caltech.
We're rolling on Mars. We're rolling. You can see the signal going up, and this is a slow roller.
It's rolling.
It's still rolling, and they're still seeing it. That
And
is
they're
remarkable
still
to
seeing
me.
it. That's amazing.
Harking back to your days in Pathfinders, we watched Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger briefly there, Al Gore, former vice president there, as they congratulate the team there. You had the ability to see Pathfinder as it went down, but there were gaps, were there not?
There were gaps, just as there were here before the parachute. For example, when you're on the ionizing shield, it's hard to see it through.
Of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger is the only person there who can claim to have been on Mars.
Representative
in
Dreyer.
In an acting role, but nevertheless, and congressman from, is it this district or?
Yes,
All right.
It's a broom from Wayne Lee.
Broom for indicating a sweep, clearly. 2 for 2 they are here.
And introducing him to Rob Manning, the UDLG.
And Rob Manning, the person who really was on the hot seat tonight as this long journey came to a fiery and yet safe conclusion. Wow, that was pretty amazing, in as much as when you harken back to 3 weeks ago, there was that gap in time when no one knew for certain, and that level of tension is something. This made it look like another day in the park.
Yeah, they did a couple of things different. They split the signal, so they had dual polarizations coming out of the antenna.
Explain what that means.
That means it's easier to sort of pick it up in 2 different directions.
Yeah.
And that may have helped as well.
Yeah, apparently, if they had been listening in both ways last time, they probably would have seen it.
They might have seen it as well,
more
yeah.
continuously. Let me just ask you this. That control room right now looks like complete mayhem. And I think we should point out to folks that really, despite all their close attention to those screens, they were just watching.
Yeah,
there's not much you can do.
Basically, it's a completely automated sequence from dumping off the cruise stage. From that point on, all you're doing is listening and hoping for the best, and there's not anything you could do to change it.
You might call it active listening, to say the least, but listening it is. And yeah, we can walk through here, and as you see, a foreground there is Rob Manning. The left is Wayne Lee, and there we go back to Sean O'Keefe in the foreground. Pete Tysinger, one of the lead people here. Years and years of work go into this moment, and I don't know that anybody who isn't in this business realizes how much is on the line in that 6 minutes.
Absolutely. There's, hundreds of people have worked on this mission and put their hearts and souls into it, so there's a lot of happy folk.
Now, this part of Mars, the Meridiani Plenum, is a place, as you say, that is sort of devoid of dust, but has something very intriguing to the likes of you, hematite, which might very well be linked to water, or might not. Could have been linked to volcanism. Is this something that we will likely have some indication of in the coming weeks?
Oh yeah, that's the reason we came here, is that we had a clear mineralogical signature for water in some stage, either liquid or hydrothermal alteration product. That was, either one of those are wonderful locations for primitive life. So we want to find out what the environment was and whether it could have been conducive to the start of life on Mars.
And this site is radically different than Spirit's location or any other location.
Any other place we've been.
You helped choose it. What were you thinking?
Well, there are places on Mars that are bright and red, and there are places that are dark and gray. And this is a dark gray place that has very little dust, and that was a real place. You know, we wanted to see what the diversity of Mars was, and this was our chance to do it.
Yeah, and of course, going back to the Viking landings in the mid-'70s, those were, of course, rocky, dusty places.
Rocky,
so this
dusty.
really...
In fact, the first 3 places all had fairly similar remote sensing signatures. They were all rocky and dusty, with some slight differences. Gusev was very unrocky, a few rocks, and not as dusty because of where we came down. Meridiani will look completely different.
And just to button it up, we haven't talked much about it, but the prognosis for Spirit, which of course has been having great difficulties communicating with Earth and resetting itself, does look much better this evening.
Oh, super. They've identified pretty confidently that it was a difficulty in flash memory. There's lots of ways to work around that, and so we're hoping that we can diagnose that over the next several days and actually come up with a workaround plan.
All right, we leave you with this live picture of Sean O'Keefe, NASA Administrator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Governor of California, far right Steve Squires, Principal Scientific Investigator, and to your back, Ed Weiler, the Head of Science for NASA, all of them savoring this moment as Opportunity arrives safe and sound on Mars. In a couple of hours' time, we should get the first glimpses of a place called the Meridiani Planum, a place that will look like no other place we have seen in that close detail from Mars. And we'll bring you those pictures as soon as we get them. Miles O'Brien, CNN, along with Matt Gullenbach, reporting live from the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena, California. Now back to regular programming.
Time the Red rocket
has fired.
We have confirmation that the rockets have ignited. We are now awaiting confirmation of positive signals bouncing on the ground. At this time, we are passing 8,000 feet in altitude. We expect the radar should have locked up under the ground by now. We expect that the airbags will inflate approximately 20 seconds from now. Current altitude 5,000 feet, 168 miles per hour. 4,000 feet.
Radar solution, Matrix 21.
3,000 feet. The radar has a positive lock on the ground. We have a retro rocket firing solution. Retro rocket ignition on my mark. At this time, the retro rocket
has fired.
We have confirmation that the retro rockets have ignited. We are now awaiting confirmation of positive signals bouncing on the ground. At this time, we are 5 minutes, 55 seconds after entry. We should be bouncing on the ground.
We're getting a bounce signal. We're getting a bounce signal. We're getting a bounce signal.
We're getting confirmation the spacecraft is bouncing and alive on Mars. However, this bouncing will take place for another 10 minutes.
Stop. Hold on.
We have a momentary loss of signal as the spacecraft is bouncing on the surface. It is difficult to maintain lock. We need to reacquire the signal to have positive confirmation of a safe landing. As the spacecraft is bouncing on the surface of Mars and rolling around, the antenna is pointed in many different orientations.
We're seeing it on the LCP. Very strong on LCP.
We have a very strong signal in the left-hand polarization channel, indicating that we still have a safe lander.
Signal on RCP as well.
We are
both channels. We're on Mars, everybody.
We still continue to receive strong LCP signal for left-hand polarization.
Still getting a strong signal from RCP.
We are getting strong signals in both left-hand and right-hand polarization. The airbag should bounce and roll for approximately another 8.5 minutes. Signal continues to be strong.
It's still there. Space settled.
Signal strength continues to be very high.
Still getting a strict signal.
Flight Ace. Go flight. Lander is still alive. 14 reports carrier log CAD 050711. Copy that. We have DBRs and Station calling flight. Mission. I'd like to thank you for the ride. You did a great job. I'd like a status shortly. One more. MGS Mach, this is flight on Murphy Ops. Can you give me status, please?
We're still waiting for the first
very good. We expect that the
should be within a few minutes here. I will give you an update as soon as we have it.
Copy that. Thank you. Go MGS Mach.
We are seeing evidence of a second fragment filling. That means 2.5 minutes of communications from the lander after landing. Minimum of 2.5 minutes of communications after landing. We'll wait for the data to come down. It will be a few minutes, and we'll give you an update.
We're flight. We're rolling on Mars. We're rolling. You can see the signal going up, and this is a slow roller.
And flight Ace 14 is required carrier. Copy that.
Lots of happy faces here in Mission Control. There you see the Governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Right, we're
followed
very
by
strong
Adam
with the
Schiff,
RCP,
California Congressman for this area of Pasadena and Glendale.
Flight 3 is required carrier.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is coming up next to former Vice President Al Gore and gets a broom from Wayne Lee. Wayne is giving the governor a tour and introducing him to Rob Manning, the EDL chief, and Polly Estabrook. Plenty of congratulations here and smiling faces. Who would have thunk it? He did it twice. The governor is asking questions. Rob's showing them how the lander probably rolled, giving him the background on the signals and tones, I'm sure.
Okay, gotta go.
So the governor is getting a lesson on EDL. And there you see NASA Administrator Sean O'Keefe with Dr. Nadiri here at JPL. Behind him is David Baltimore, Dr. David Baltimore from Caltech, and Jason Willens, the flight director. Jim Erickson, he is the mission manager for Opportunity. There's Steve Squires, the principal investigator, the man behind the Athena payload. And there you saw Wayne Lee with Representatives John Culbertson and Adam Schiff.
We still see evidence that the spacecraft is rolling on the surface of Mars. We still see some residual bouncing and rolling. This is not unexpected, as Meridiani planes are very flat.
Flight, where we're still rolling very slowly from one angle to another angle.
There, once again, to the right of your screen, you see former Vice President Al Gore next to Congressman Culbertson and Wayne Lee, and in the foreground, Rob Manning. Associate Administrator of Space Sciences, Ed Weiler, shaking hands with the governor and standing with Sean O'Keefe, NASA Administrator, and speaking with Steve Squires, the principal investigator of the payload.
Flight, we're still rolling on Mars.
Flight MDS Mark, we are seeing evidence of the data downlinked at this point in time. We should have some on the ground in about 5 minutes.
MGS Mach. This is Flight. I was off net for a moment. Could you repeat the last?
Certainly. We have evidence of downlink in progress. We should have data on the ground in about 5 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Flight, this is...
Station calling Flight.
Flight, I think we just stopped rolling.
Copy that. Do we still have signal, EO?
Take that back. We're still moving.
Okay.
Do we care about the data anymore?
Opportunity arrived on the red planet in the last hour and has rolled to a stop upside down. For more, Let's turn to space correspondent Miles O'Brien. He's at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. Miles.
Hello, Shihab. For the first time in nearly 20 years, NASA has two operative rovers on the surface of Mars. Actually, not rovers specifically 20 years ago, but two operative spacecraft, at least, on the surface of Mars. Opportunity arriving seemingly without a hitch. As a matter of fact, it was most interesting for the fact that we were able to hear it through radio communications all the way down to the surface, even as it bounced numerous times inside those inflatable airbags that protect it as it arrives on the surface of Mars. The scene here at the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena, California, as it occurred, was one of initial tension, followed by some great relief. Let's listen.
4,000 feet.
Here we go. Radar solution, matrix 21.
3,000 feet. The radar has a positive lock on the ground. We have a retro rocket firing solution. Retro rocket ignition on my mark. At this time, the retro rocket
has fired.
We have confirmation. Retro rockets have ignited. We are now awaiting confirmation.
And with all of that, it became apparent, the team overjoyed there, Rob Manning, the person with the beard there, the man in charge of entry, descent, and landing, as opportunity arrived in a place called the Meridiani Planum, a flat, dustless place that may have a mineral called hematite, which might very well be linked to the presence of water at one time. All kinds of celebrities here in Southern California at the Jet Propulsion Lab for this event. The governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger, former Vice President Al Gore there to congratulate the team on a flawless evening. One of the people who was very instrumental in choosing this landing site, as well as Spirits 3 weeks ago, Matt Gullenbeck, one of the chief scientists here. Watching this, Matt, it really almost lacked the tension that we saw 3 weeks ago. Of course, that really isn't the case if you're one of the people who's involved in this team, right?
It was perfect. I mean, everything went perfectly. The indications are that the G loads were very low. It was a smooth touchdown. Indications we didn't actually roll very far, slightly downrange from the primary point, but saw the signal the entire way. It was perfect.
Let's sort of back up for just a moment and give people a sense of what occurred to allow opportunity to arrive as safely as it did. It begins with tremendous speed that is bled off with a heat shield and a parachute, and then ultimately some firings of rockets. And then finally airbags to get it all down. It sounds very Rube Goldberg-ish, but it's actually a very robust way to arrive on the planet Mars, isn't it?
Yeah, use the friction of the atmosphere and the heat shield to actually ablates to slow you down tremendously. You start out at about 11,000 miles an hour. You pop out a supersonic parachute that takes away a tremendous amount of the speed, and you drop off the heat shield part way down. Then the lander's repelled on a 20-meter tether, and when the lander is freed up from there's the heat shield dropping away, the lander goes down on the tether. It uses a radar altimeter to measure the closing velocity with the ground. That signals to firing the solid rockets on the back shell, to inflating the airbags, and ultimately to cutting the tether. There's the airbags inflating. The solid rockets will fire just about now. There it is. It cuts the tether, and the lander bounces the final 10 meters or so.
All of that happening on an automatic sequence after a journey of many hundreds of millions of kilometers. And really, the team can do little more than sit and watch and monitor and hope for the best.
You strap on and hope it's a good ending.
Now, this site where it is, this Meridiani Planum, we should see some pictures perhaps as soon as a couple of hours from now, waiting for a satellite that is a NASA satellite in the Martian orbit to pass overhead and perhaps send those pictures. What are we likely to see?
That'll be the Mars Odyssey pass with the UHF link. And the predictions are this site will look unlike any of the 4 landing sites we've been at. There will be virtually no dust. We're expecting an incredibly smooth, flat, kind of dark grayish to blackish plane.
Not the rusty color that we've seen heretofore.
Should not see rust color here. This should be just absolutely free of dust, and that's got a lot of us geologists super excited.
All right, we'll be watching closely for that. And just to button it up for you, we will tell you that the Spirit rover is apparently in much better shape than was thought just a couple of days ago. team here has figured some workarounds. It appears to be a software problem involving the memory, but they are now communicating with it pretty effectively, telling it to go to sleep, and it's no longer resetting repeatedly. Shihab?
Thanks a lot, Miles. Miles O'Brien. And you can learn much more about the Mars mission by logging on to our website. Our online coverage includes the latest news on the two rovers, a photo gallery from the Red Planet, interactive maps of the Mars surface, and much more, all at cnn.com/space.
This is a CNN Live event.
NASA scientists are about to hold a news briefing in Pasadena, California, just a short time, about an hour and a half since the Mars rover Opportunity safely touched down on the Red Planet. Still terribly jubilant over there in Pasadena. So far, though, as far as we know, the Mars rover has landed safely. No fault tones detected in its radio signals back to Earth. Let's hear what else these scientists have to say once the applause has died down.
I was asking the project manager, he's lost control. Oh. It's a good time to lose control.
Talk to me.
Oh my God. Oh boy. What's
I think they're obviously waiting for one key personality to reappear on the stage, but as we've said, that rover is now on Mars. It joins its companion, the Spirit rover, on the other side of Mars, which has now started apparently working once again.
We will be starting our press briefing momentarily, following a little impromptu celebration among the team members here. Fantastic.
Thrilled, it's not big enough. Who's coming in? I know. That was great. That was great. What a photo. We're only 9 minutes late.
Obviously, the NASA scientists saved their flawless timing for the descent of the Mars rover, not for their press conference. They seem to be still talking amongst each other in the auditorium at the moment. But just to repeat, as far as we know, the NASA Opportunity rover has landed safely, on time, about an hour and 35 minutes ago. Flawless descent, they said, and as far as we know, is in good working order. One of the key missions, of course, one of the key questions is water and life and so on Mars. We already have confirmation from another European orbiter that there is water on both poles now, on the south as well as the north pole, which had been
We'll be starting momentarily.
confirmed beforehand. But this rover, we understand, will be continuing the analysis of the Red Planet to look for signs of water and indeed of life.
we can have you all take your seats, and we will get started. Thank you all again for joining us at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory here in Pasadena, California. If the scene out there looks like a locker room after the Super Bowl, that's exactly what it is, because I think these guys have won the Super Bowl. Let me introduce our panelists. We have, of course, first of all, NASA Administrator Sean O'Keefe. Dr. Ed Weiler, NASA's Associate Administrator for Space Science. Dr. Charles Alachi, the Director of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Pete Tysinger, Project Manager. Richard Cook. And Rob Manning. Rob is the Entry, Descent, and Landing Development Manager. Administrator O'Keefe.
Thank you very, very much. What a night. I mean, as the old saying goes, it's far better to be lucky than good. But you know, the harder we work, the luckier we seem to get. This team is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the very idea, no one dared dream we would be able to pull off batting 1,000 on this. And yet this was a tremendous testimonial to how NASA, when really focused on an objective, can put every ounce of effort, energy, emotion, and talent to an important task. And this is just a truly remarkable achievement. And this team is the best in the world, no doubt about it. It's fascinating to see how these rovers are beginning to develop personalities of their own. You know, what we've seen in Spirit here in the last 48 hours is a irritation over starting to lose the attention of everybody involved. So it decided it wanted to raise a little bit of a stink here, you know, and kind of resembling, you know, a balky teenager who refused to come in at night or go to sleep at night, you know. Not responding to orders, commands, or requests, or pleas, or anything, you know. So feeling like frustrated parents, you know, we've worked that through, and eventually superior logic was employed, and it's now responding in a way that is favorable. Just in time, hours before opportunity. Now, Opportunity's developed a personality, too, and it began on July the 7th, when it was due to launch that evening, a gorgeous night in Florida, and 15 seconds before the intended launch, a issue came up in which a valve was detected to be still open on the launch vehicle, and as a consequence, it was scrubbed until the next opportunity, so to speak, about an hour and a half later. And at the exact appointed time, it launched and it went. And it's been flawless ever since. It can't wait to get started. It hit the ground, literally, and began communicating right off the bat. This was a truly remarkable achievement. We didn't think it could get any better than the way it did with Spirit. And yet, at the same time, this was an amazing achievement to immediately get the response. Now we'll see whether or not it wants to give us visual aids here in the next few hours or not to describe itself. But at the same time, they are both developing really very impressive and very important personalities. So many very important people who have been part of this team and part of this effort all the way through have contributed to this from across the entire agency, are here with us and been working through this challenge, been asked to come in to deal with a range of different challenges to sort through the Spirit issues as well. But we've also got a number of folks who've come to be part of this and understand and I think provide their support for what we're about as well. Sergio Vitrella, who is the president of the Italian Space Agency, is here with us. Sergio, it's grand to have you with us and visiting all of us. Thank you, sir. Congressman Adam Schiff and John Culberson are here as well, and we're just delighted to have you with us. Thank you, sir. Senator, fantastic. Former Governor Pete Wilson is here. I saw him just come in a little while ago. Governor, thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it. Governor Schwarzenegger stopped by and certainly made his presence known, and we were delighted to have him here as well. And former Vice President Al Gore has stopped by as well. Mr. Vice President, thank you very much.
Right behind the cameras.
You know, my good friend Ed Weiler, as I described a few weeks ago, described as how there is important moments as we work through this, and to not celebrate too soon. After the launch of Spirit and Opportunity, he said, "No, look, let's just pop a soda here because the hard work is yet to come. It's the landing. This is the part that's going to make you tear your hair out. And so as a consequence, let's hold off on drinking any champagne till then." Well, having started a tradition 3 weeks ago, I think it's an awfully good idea to keep it going. Superb. And this time I wasn't as worried about hitting reporters. I didn't uncork it before.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
To the Mars Exploration Rover team, the best in the world.
Dr. Weiler?
Oh. It's California champagne.
That's right, it's California.
Well, my boss is a tough act to follow, so I'll be very short because I want to hear what Pete has to say. Let's see. This opportunity was won in 60,000 years. That is, Mars is closer now than it's been in 60,000 years. So we had a unique opportunity. But more importantly, we had the spirit to try for two. And the NASA team, led by JPL, really swept the doubleheader. And you did it. personal side, I got on the plane on Thursday morning. First thing I did was leave a message for you telling you about the spirit problem, which was overly negative as it turned out, but it was accurate at the time. So I came here prepared for a funeral, basically. And instead, in the last 48 hours, talk about a roller coaster ride. We resurrected one rover, and we saw the birth of another today. But I guess I'll have to stop using the excuse of Mars as a death planet, because just in the last 3 weeks we've gone from a U.S. record of 1 and 2 to now 5 out of 6. And that's an 87% batting average, which isn't bad. And we've even boosted the world's batting average from 1 and 3 to almost 1 and 2 now. So, however, I wouldn't be in character if I didn't remind everybody. This is just one more critical milestone. As we learned with Spirit, things do go bad here on Earth and on Mars. And we've got a lot of critical deployments that are going on right now, hopefully, if we're very, very lucky. And because these guys are so good, and gals, sometimes skill is better than luck. We might get some pictures at midnight or so. But there's a long road to go yet, and but this was one heck of a critical milestone, and thank you.
Anytime. Anytime. How about Wednesday? First, I would like to acknowledge a number of people. We really thank all of you for coming here. I want to acknowledge Dr. Baltimore and Mrs. Baltimore, the president of Caltech, who are here. Also, I know earlier there was Mayor Bogart from Pasadena and Mayor Del Garcio from La Cañada. If they are here, we thank you for joining us. We have a number of the members of the Board of Trustees of Caltech. I see Mrs. Wilson here. Thank you, for joining us. And if there are any other members, thank you for joining us also here. And finally, before I go through my speech, I want to thank my wife, Valerie, and her sister, Christy. And today is Christy's birthday. There is a quote which is in my office, I know it's in Sean's office, by Teddy Kennedy. And it's about daring to do great things. Teddy Roosevelt. That's Teddy Roosevelt, sorry. Teddy Roosevelt. Too much excitement now, too much excitement. That's more. Yeah, I had too much champagne. Anyway, Teddy Roosevelt, sorry. About daring great thing, and that's exactly what this team have been doing. That's exactly what in NASA we do every day. Today, in the last 3 weeks, you have been observing exploration exactly as it happens, with its joy, its frustration, its glory, its basically feeling really down. But that's what exploration is about. If you look in the book of history, if you look at the exploration, what Cook did, what Shackleton, what Lewis and Clark, despite all the preparation that you do, what counts is how do you face adversity when it's in front of you, and what the team does when you face adversity. And this team has faced it with resolve, with courage, and with ingenuity. And that's what makes this team unique, and that will give them the right to do exploration, for our country. For me, the second success is even sweeter than the first one. And the reason is very simple. People could have said, well, they got lucky, on one. But it's hard to get lucky twice, in 3 weeks. And I think the success that this team had was they succeeded the old-fashioned way. They were excellent, they were determined, and they worked very hard. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
We are 2 for 2. 24 hours ago, closer to 36 maybe, I sat up on this stage and told you that we had a serious problem with Spirit, and we had opportunity clearly more than a day away from its most, the riskiest part of its adventure. And here we are tonight with Spirit, we think, on a path to recovery, at least a lot of its functionality, and we've successfully landed opportunity on Mars. And this is clearly an e-ticket, that's for sure.
It goes higher than that.
Right, yeah. You know, there's so many people that we have to say thank you to, and the team is so excellent. I think you saw a measure of its creativity today as it walked by here. Also, my lack of control. This has just been a stupendous adventure for all of us. Just incredible. You do not know. You cannot know. We probably don't know. But the size of the group in this room and the amount of coverage we've seen over the past 3 weeks probably gives us a hint of how historic and monumental this really is. We have done, this team, in 3 years, 2 of the 5 successful U.S. landings on Mars. Okay. The people to my left are instrumental in 3 of the 5, and everything since Viking. Okay, that's incredible. I'm glad Ed mentioned that we have retired this risk, but we still have a ways to go because you would be disappointed if I didn't repeat it. But clearly, this is a big day, and I think this shows the excellence that was in the design and of the team that put it together. So I think our opportunities to go forward are really great.
NASA scientists indulging in some self-congratulation and mutual backslapping, deservedly so, after the successful descent of the Opportunity rover and the resurrection, as one of them put it, of the Spirit rover. We'll have more analysis of what this all actually means in about 2 minutes' time on World News, as well as the rest of the world's events. Stay with us.
This has been a CNN live event.
Lines now, more details on NASA's second Mars rover landing. Opportunity made a near-flawless arrival on the red planet. And space correspondent Miles O'Brien joins us now live from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, with more. Miles.
Shihab, the planet Mars has been called by some of the scientists and engineers here the death planet because it's been so difficult to successfully send spacecraft to it. But that may be changing because the batting average is going up significantly. NASA now 2 for 2 in this latest campaign to send spacecraft to the surface of Mars. The Opportunity rover arriving safely, bouncing to a safe stop in a place called the Meridiani Planum, which is a flat place that is not very dusty, not that color that you would expect from Mars that we've seen in the previous landing places, and will provide some information on some minerals there that might have some link to ancient water. But all that lies ahead, and as a matter of fact, we should be seeing the first glimpse of that place not too long from now. But the scene here just a little while ago was one of a lot of tension followed by some tremendous euphoria. Let's listen.
4,000 feet.
Radar solution, matrix 21.
3,000 feet. The radar has a positive lock on the ground. We have a retro-rocket firing solution. Retro-rocket ignition on my mark. At this time, the retro-rocket
has fired.
We have confirmation. The rockets have ignited. We are now awaiting confirmation.
California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, former Vice President Al Gore, among the dignitaries there to cheer on the team. There you see the man in charge of entry, descent, and landing getting a big hug. Well-deserved. After 3 years of work, the team has successfully put 2 rovers on the surface of Mars. One of them being resuscitated as we speak, Spirit, which has had some problems. Another one now just in the beginning of its time on the planet. Hopefully we'll be able to see those first images soon. Matt Gullenbeck is one of the people who was selecting those sites Spirit and Opportunity sites. Two good locations for landing, we have determined. Congratulations on that.
We have two safe landing sites.
All right. Now, based on what you know and what you've gotten a good sense of where it landed, how close was it to the bullseye, and what does that tell you about where you are?
About 12 kilometers long, which is pretty much like Spirit, just a little bit downrange. Don't exactly know why, but we're actually in a pretty interesting part of the ellipse. The place where the center was going to come looked like this smooth, featureless plain. And the place where it looks like we came down has this mottled, bright terrain that's kind of peeking through that dark stuff. And we would desperately love to sample both of those units and really get to do some field science.
So that sense of being on a really flat place may not be what we get when we get those first pictures coming in.
Can't tell. Everything looks like it was flat. It looks like that white stuff just barely comes up. So it may be just about as flat, but there may be this other geologic unit that's peeking through.
What leads you to believe that there was water once in this place? Why are you there?
Well, the hematite is on the Earth. Hematite forms typically either in a standing body of water or by hydrothermal alteration. And both of those are calling cards for the environment in which life loves to get started.
Let's show folks what happened just a little while ago using some animation of this descent, this 6 minutes, which requires all kinds of things to go off without a hitch. Any one thing not occurring and you wouldn't have the successful landing that occurred. Why don't you just walk us through this moment from this point where it's going its fastest and its hottest all the way down to the surface. It's an incredible braking procedure.
12,000 miles an hour, and you have 4 minutes and 57 pyrotechnic devices. You pop out a parachute. That slows you down dramatically. You are coming down on that. You have a timer. You pop off the heat shield. You'll see that in just a minute. There it is. You rappel down a 20-meter tether. A radar altimeter seeks the ground and measures the closing velocity. At just the right altitude, it inflates the airbags around the lander. It fires the solid rockets on the back shell, and it cuts the tether, and you bounce from about 10 meters up. And you bounce, and you bounce, and you bounce.
And all through that procedure, the ground team was able to watch it doing that, which is a remarkable thing. When you see it bouncing, you realize those antennas are spinning around, the fact that they're able to see.
And we remained in lock with the tones telling us that everything happened all the way down, and we measured it as it rolled across the surface.
All of that happening automatically, the team really just watching it happen and watching, as we said, with a mixture of tension followed by joy in each case. Right now, that procedure that you're seeing there happen and kind of fast forward is kind of happening as we speak. Those petals are beginning the process of unfolding.
First, you deflate the air. You pull open patches on the airbags. That allows the airbags to deflate. You then retract the airbags, the ones that are out on top. You determine which way is down using the accelerometers, and you open that panel first, so you flop over in an upright and operational configuration.
All right. As far as we know, all that is happening right now, as we say, as soon as we get some pictures back from this part of Mars, a part of Mars like no other we have seen before, we will share them with you, Shihab.
Thank you, Miles. Miles O'Brien there in Pasadena, and you can learn much more about the Mars mission by logging on to our website. Our online coverage includes the latest news on the two rovers, a photo gallery from the Red Planet, interactive maps of the Mars surface, and much more, all at cnn.com/space. Here are the headlines. NASA's Mars rover Opportunity's only been on the Red Planet a matter of hours, and we understand it's already beginning to transmit pictures back to Earth. Miles O'Brien joins us from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, with more. Miles.
Shihab, everything seems to be going very well for the rover Opportunity, and landed now in the Meridianum Plenum, and so far, so good. It is landed safely. It has continued to send signals back to Earth, and just a few moments ago, as a passing NASA satellite went overhead, used this antenna, shortest antenna on its top, to communicate with that satellite. That satellite now is in the process of sending data back to Earth, and we expect to see the first pictures of this very dust-free, rock-free plane, which is on the other side of Mars from the Spirit rover, which has been on Mars now for 3 weeks and is having some difficulty right now, which we'll talk about in just a few moments, although things do look better there now. Matt Gullenbeck is one of the people who selected the landing sites for both Spirit and Opportunity. He joins us now. He's been listening to the team as some of this information has been coming back. We know that there are 20 megabits of data on the ground or on the way, right?
23 megabits is being relayed. They've gotten initial confirmation that the spacecraft is completely deployed, which is an excellent sign. And that suggests that, in fact, the images have been taken. The PanCam mast needs to actually deploy to the upright configuration here in order before it to start looking around and taking those images.
All right, and this is, what you call it the PanCam, it's the mast that has the stereoscopic imagery capability.
Panoramic camera,
And
yes.
once the solar arrays have deployed and antennas have kind of unstowed, this is sort of the next course of action.
First thing it does is it actually looks and finds the sun and determines its orientation from that, so it knows which way to point the high-gain antenna.
All right, let's take a look at some live pictures now from the spacecraft mission support area where the team has now gone and is now receiving this information. These are live pictures now from a building not too far from where we sit. What's the team going through right now as they go through these checklists, waiting for everything to come in? We've had a few doses of applause as each step occurs and goes according to plan.
Basically, they're getting the initial packets of information. Each of the subsystems basically are getting the packets for their subsystem, and they start to look at the health of the spacecraft and the configuration.
Let's listen for 1 second.
The PMA kind of looking down the bore side of what's in front of us. If the PMA was successfully deployed, we have a Papa 1502 tier 2, which kind of is the ring around the lander in our immediate surroundings.
Master just talked about
right. After that is an image of our PanCam calibration target, so that we can get shadow information for which way the sun is and which way the rover is going.
This is a preview of a potential slideshow we hope to see shortly.
That should be happening quite shortly, yes.
Now, just to give us a preview on what we're going to see here, a lot of people are going to look at this and see a face of Mars, if you'll excuse that expression, face of Mars that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, that's the very exciting part about this site, and that's why I'm up at this hour of the morning.
Otherwise, you'd be asleep, huh?
This place is just, everything indicates it's going to look completely different from any of the places that we've landed on Mars.
Now, this is on the opposite side of the planet from the Gusev crater, where Spirit is now, and where the team is hoping to resurrect it, coming up with ways to work around some faulty memory right now. Gusev was chosen because it is believed by you and others that it might very well have been a dry lake bed. In this case, you're talking about a near dust-free, near rock-free plain. Why would that lead you to think about water?
The thing that called us to the site was a mineral called hematite, which the thermal emission spectrometer on one of the orbiters found. And this particular mineral, hematite, typically forms either in standing body of water or in a hydrothermal deposit. And either one of those would be sites that would be tremendously interesting and perhaps even conducive to life.
Now, when you see the hematite, presuming it is there and it is validated on the ground by Opportunity once it gets going, is it possible to know how that hematite was formed by looking at it?
Oh, yes. It's not just the hematite itself that would tell you, but the association with the other rocks. And the hematite is not the interesting thing to us. That's the calling card. The interesting thing is what the story the rocks have to tell us about what the environment was.
And once again, the rocks do tell a story if you're able to root them out. And rocks do not lie, do they?
Geologists are very friendly with rocks.
And let's remind folks, we may be taking a few things for granted as we look at the team there just sort of waiting, and really quite an expanded team because a lot of the NASA brass and others who are just considered VIPs have had an opportunity to be there for this.
They're expectantly waiting for those images, and there's a lot of team members of various parts of the team. There's a bunch of scientists in the back, but there's also, yes, the series of dignitaries as well.
And even the team taking pictures of itself. That shows you what the kind of moment this is.
Sure. Normally, the MSA is not nearly that crowded, particularly at this hour of the night.
And going back to what I wanted to just make a point on this quest for water that we keep hearing about. Tell you what, let's listen to them for just a moment as they talk about what they're about to see. They just went silent. While they're in a pause there, let's talk, why the hunt for water?
Well, water is the absolute requirement for life here on the Earth. Everywhere that life exists, there is liquid water in some form. And the question is, if Mars is our closest neighbor in the solar system, if it had an environment in the past in which liquid water was stable, you just have to ask the question, are we alone in the universe? Will life form anywhere that liquid water is stable? Or do you need some chance in a billion occurrence, some act of God, something that we don't even know about?
So this is really the intersection of science and philosophy and theology.
I'd say it's the most compelling question that scientists can ask as scientists.
You know, and I think there's another question which we haven't talked much about, but you have to wonder if Mars was once warm and wet, and it is what it is now, could Earth be headed in the same direction?
That's right. I mean, basically, one of the, the true achievements of our latest 20 years of civilization is that the Earth is not the only place in the solar system. And we can compare our planet to Venus, which has gone in one very inhospitable way, a runaway greenhouse with temperatures so hot that iron would melt on the surface, to Mars at the other extreme, which is cold and desiccating and not very hospitable either. And the Earth is just right. And what, are we really lucky or what?
And well, let's assume for a moment we decide at some point in the future, scientists have concluded that, yeah, this is precisely where we're headed. Cold, unforgiving, and very dry. What can we do about it?
Well, the ideas have been suggested of perhaps terraforming Mars. Everything we need...
Turn it into something we live in.
Yeah, I mean, it's a frozen place now, but suppose we warmed it up a little bit, thicken the atmosphere, and there have been lots of ideas about, everything you need to support life exists on Mars. You have the water, you have all the elements, you just need to kind of warm it up. And there's ideas about how to do that.
Now, if you think landing on Mars, as we have witnessed tonight, sounds easy, that one...
Well, that would take... Actually, there's real moral questions about, we buggered up our own Earth, we should go bugger up the next one, too.
Yeah.
But at least you could conceive of it. And the ideas are you'd send down microbes that would slowly change the environment. You'd try to get more sunlight to hit the surface, etc., that kind of thing. So.
Let's go back live now into the spacecraft mission support area. And let's listen for just a moment to what they're talking about right now.
Egress. And then on
That's on your screen left.
Yeah, and then in the white shirt on the screen right.
We're just listening to some of the mission commentators. But what are they waiting for right now as this relay occurs? And we're talking about things traveling across 100 million miles plus of space, obviously.
Well, first of all, the data needs to go from the rover up to the Odyssey spacecraft. It is taken and stored on board the Odyssey spacecraft, and then it's relayed later back to the Deep Space Network stations here on Earth. And then they have to go from those Deep Space Network via TDRS, another satellite, to get to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. So all that takes a little bit of time.
Now, we have been watching earlier the entry, descent, and landing team. Literally, we saw... All right, data's coming in right now.
So that means, that's excellent. That means the UHF TAS has worked. The UHF antenna has worked. Remember, this is, we did it before, but it was a different antenna.
Right.
Those first pictures.
And the pictures,
so these pictures should appear
coming just any moment now, really just any moment.
There literally was a parade of buoyant engineers and flight controllers through the Jet Propulsion Lab earlier. Is this the same group or is this a different group now?
A lot of the people are the same. The thermal engineers are the same. The telecom engineers are the same. There's a whole entry, descent, and landing group that is partying right now. They've done their job. The baby's on the ground, and it's time for the surface guys to take over.
Let's listen for a sec.
It was flying in. It was the off-sun angle that tripped. We're pre-land intercept nominal, so EDL is no longer in control, and the Earth is in control.
Copy that. We have a master running, and everything green as far as the surface cares.
White power.
Okay, so that means the sequence has gone all the way over, and they're now...
On the bus.
Copy that. Solar ray current.
What's that? Solar current that's gone into the space. I mean,
so we're going through systems
panel,
checks here.
System.
Yeah. And this is along with the pictures is coming the diagnostic information about
actually,
the
the engineering
spacecraft.
stuff always comes first.
Much to the chagrin of scientists, I suppose, at times, but this is the way it should be, right?
They own this baby. They need to know what's going on with it.
And these images that we're going to see are going to be, in the grand scheme of things, low resolution, not the images that you will put on postcards. But the fact that they're there is what counts, right?
Yeah, the initial ones are taken by the navigation cameras in stereo, and they're highly compressed. So it looks like we got it here.
Looks like it's coming in.
So basically, they went through the full sequence, and everything was nominal in the spacecraft, and that's what they're reacting to
so
here.
the checklist is all green.
Has gone through. That means we have a fully functioning and healthy spacecraft that has taken images, okay, and we should be getting them very shortly.
Now let me ask you this as we wait for these pictures to come in, and here they come. Let's watch a part of Mars and humanize. This is actually a part of the spacecraft.
That's looking off down at Mars, yeah, with the spacecraft in front.
Yeah.
Could you repeat that, please, imaging? Rear HAZCAM thumbnail on the screen.
It's a rear HAZCAM.
Copy that.
So
Good
that's
ATS.
a rear HAZCAM image.
26 degrees for the yaw.
So
26 for yaw already.
At the base of the rear of the rover, looking off across the pedal, you can see the pedal, and just an indistinct pan, in the back.
So that's the pedal shot you're just referring to. In other words,
Now
it's sort of a self-portrait is what that is,
Now
right?
we're getting these other images, or what we call thumbnails.
Yeah.
Which are just little teeny ones and highly compressed. The real ones will be coming in very shortly.
Here's a close-up of that one that's a self-image. There's a lot of pixels in this.
Yeah, but you can see...
Oh, here we go. Now you go.
Here it is.
There we go. There's a shot. Now that... Wow. Yeah, you got a little sense of the... There's the airbags up in here.
There's the airbags. Look at that rolling plane in the background.
Yep. And but it's a little more hilly than you would have anticipated, right?
It could be rolling, but look at that.
You can see the horizon.
Look
there.
at that.
Let's see there. There's a little bit of a hilly horizon
Look
there.
at that whitish over there on the edge.
All right, this is what you're interested in. What do you think that is?
That could be that white underlying outcrop coming up to the surface.
So what would make it white, though? What kind of thing would that be?
A different geologic unit from the planes unit that we're on.
All right, and in the foreground here, lots of cables. What are all these cables all about there?
Basically, heat rejection system and cables going through the spacecraft.
Yeah. Almost as good a picture as the reaction of the team here, isn't it? As they.
Oh, now there's looking out to the surface. Look at that. What is that?
I don't know. If you don't know, we're in deep trouble.
In front of it, though, I couldn't see.
Out there, we do have an egress aid tip in the air, which is not expected for plus Y down.
Oh.
All right, so that's looking down at the soil? Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's the soil, and that's the egress aid.
The soil is there. Egress aid, meaning this is a ramp that...
that's the
egress aid right there.
That's the edge of the solar panel.
But
that looks like an outcrop or a platey outcrop out there, that white stuff.
Yeah.
Next nav cam picture up here, right nav cam.
Let's switch our shots here.
This is all great news.
Everything's
working so well.
And the front
this
and
is
to
a
the right.
repeat of what we had
Showing
before.
clear egress aids in the front.
It's
okay, clear egress aids, so that implies we should be able to drive straight off, as opposed to we had to turn 120 degrees.
What are we seeing here as this comes on?
Again, more thumbnails.
Yeah. And these are the low resolution images. How soon before they start using the high resolution cameras to give them?
PanCams would be the mission success. That's looking down the PanCam mast assembly. There. And there's the horizon out there.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here's the horizon shot right there.
That's probably still a
It looks a little dark, though. Is that sunset?
It's going to be dark.
Wow.
Look at all this coming up now. Look at that. There's all sorts of stuff going on in that plane.
Look at that plane there.
Wow. And there's light stuff and dark stuff.
Yep. And here you see this is the mast here.
That's looking down the mast. The solar panels there.
Solar panels are in here.
Yep.
And there's your horizon.
There's the horizon.
Opposite side of Mars.
It's like plain. I don't see rocks. I see little outcrops. See that little ledge is probably an outcrop?
Now look at that wide-angle shot.
Wow, they've already done a full, it's sort of a partial panorama.
Once again,
wow.
this is the...
That's the egress aid.
Right there.
Yep.
And this is the surface of Mars in a wide-angle type shot.
You're seeing the airbags there.
Airbags in this
there
corner,
and over
right?
there.
Over there.
And the edge of the panels and part of the solar panels right under.
Yeah.
Clearly we can see.
So that's shooting almost down in itself.
But what's so exciting is in the field we're seeing these different colors and textures. The white and the dark. Those would be prime geologic targets to start going to.
I haven't seen a rock yet. Have you seen a rock?
Well, I see outcrops, which are these little croppings of material there, which are just as, they're even better than rocks for geologists.
Really?
They're in place.
Yeah.
And now that could be a layer. And we can go up and investigate that layer and look at the stratigraphy, what's on top of it, what's below it. This is very exciting, very exciting.
This is not the Mars we are accustomed to seeing based on the previous trips.
This is different.
Yeah. Now, and you got to take a little bit of pride seeing this, seeing as you selected this site,
I
right?
have selected 3 safe sites and 3 interesting sites.
Wow, wow.
There's the solar panels here.
Solar panels over in here.
Right, and down the PanCam mast assembly here.
Okay. The PanCam mast. And let's see what's coming in here. That's
Again,
kind of
that's
a darker
down the
shot.
PanCam mast assembly.
So this the PanCam has not been raised.
This is the image before it's been raised, but we know it has been raised because we see the other ones. Again, look at that.
Oh, this is
totally
very
different.
Very
look at
interesting.
that.
Look
at it, it's like an outcrop. It's the plane. That's that bright material that I was talking about coming up from underneath.
Is that? It looks like we're looking at a cliff.
That's
almost.
a different layer coming in. It's almost like an outcrop beneath this basaltic surface.
Oh, I think
look at that right in there. That's very, very interesting. It's very different.
Completely different from anything we've seen yet.
Is there any way,
so exciting.
Is there any way of guessing the color of these black and white shots? Can you have a sense
again,
of it?
low albedo. You can see the grayish part.
Yeah.
This is, as I said, this would be a darker location.
Weeks ago, it was an incredible.
And this is what's interesting is you're seeing the self-portrait of the spacecraft right there.
Yeah, we're looking down now. You're seeing the wings of the solar panels there. And the egress aids. And the egress aid is completely clear going out front. So we should be able to drive straight off without having to do that 120-degree turn.
If you recall, in Spirit's case, there was a problem with one of the airbags. Not a problem. It was just an airbag in the way. They had to, plan for a little different egress. In this case, they drive straight off.
Ah, so exciting. This is so exciting. Look at the structure. Those are probably outcrops. That white stuff there, that's probably a different unit from the unit that's the hematite, which is the dark grayish material down that you see in the foreground.
Dark gray is all in this area.
In that, that's probably the basalt with that hematite texture and signature, and the white stuff is the underlying material that's cropping out.
Any guess on what it is?
It's hard for me to tell, but what's striking.
But that's what's producing the rock abundance is that outcrops there. Really no real rocks at all.
The region behind the rover.
Somewhat dark.
It'll be very easy for this rover to move, won't it?
This looks just smooth and flat and trafficable, as we said. So this is so exciting for me personally. Just amazing.
This is a picture of. Doesn't look like much.
Well,
but to you, it's probably.
Oh, there's the retraction marks for the airbags. You can see the airbag have been pulled forward, so there's some sort of a soil layer here that we're producing indents into.
Yeah, little piece of the solar array here.
Little piece of the solar array. You're seeing that's way up above, right? You're looking way down here. Oh. Boy, and that is flat, wouldn't you say?
I should say.
That is flat.
Unusual.
And these pictures are all just sort of preordained, pre-programmed in.
There's a full sequence to take, right, which is...
PI's assessment of what we're looking at.
The PI, in this case, Steve Squires of Ithaca College. There you see some of the folks there taking a look at it, some of the VIPs in presence there, sharing in this moment of, we all get to share this moment of discovery, which makes it kind of fun, doesn't it? Doesn't get any better than this,
this is,
in your business.
for me, picking 2 sites. and having them both come out, it doesn't get any better.
Plus 150 engineers.
Yeah, again,
Now,
more of those retraction.
These retraction marks on here, Matt, what do they tell you about? What does that tell you about the surface
Just
there?
that is soil of some sort, or a sandy surface, and in the pulling of those airbags, you're leaving the marks in that surface behind you.
And when you say sandy, do you really mean
millimeter-sized grain, just like being at the beach. Yeah, exactly the same. Or soil, which could be even finer grained material.
Right.
But it's deformable when you drag the airbags. It's producing those lines.
Yeah, this kind of stuff creating those lines.
That we could top
I will attempt no science analysis because it looks like nothing I've ever seen before in my life.
That's Steve Squires, the principal
predicted.
investigator, and that pretty much sums up what Matt's been saying.
The texture of
Let's listen
Meridiani
again.
Quantum was unlike almost anything else on Mars. It had a very strange, corrugated kind of texture to it. You all heard about the deeply corrugated terrain that was at the west end of the landing ellipse. What we are seeing here, I believe, is a more subtle, certainly more trafficable version of the same stuff here.
Layers in
As we had expected, holy
such
smokes.
an exciting. What an exciting sight.
I'm sorry,
This is everything we wanted.
blown away by this.
I mean, different layers. This could be stratigraphy
that
we're
was
seeing
very
here.
Well, you're talking about this right in here, all
A
these
layer
layers?
here, a layer there,
All
a
these
layer, one layer, 2 layers, 3 layers, 4 layers.
What's that there?
Again, those could be outcrops or layers of materials, 1, 2, 3, 4, or undulations in the basalt with this brighter stuff coming on. I mean, this is a spectacular, spectacular scene, and one we are going to be so excited about going to look at.
Now, what of this were you able to predict in advance, or is this a bit surprising?
This is pretty much, we said, a smooth, dark plane, potentially bright stuff coming up on it. Very few rocks so far, virtually no rocks, just the outcrops.
What are we seeing
These
here?
are probably the bounce marks.
Oh, okay, so we're
Looking
talking
in the
about
airbags.
right in this
There,
area. That's
and
about-
there,
oh, that sure looks like
and
it, doesn't it?
there.
Yeah.
Those are depressions into the soil before it actually flops into its current location and then retracts the airbags there.
Yeah.
This is spectacular.
Well,
Just
something,
spectacular.
it's amazing what a perfect circle it gave.
Yeah.
Let's listen to Steve Squires for a minute.
Clear imprint of the seams.
Yeah, the
that the bag
seam of the
left.
airbags.
Then this is the result of the bags being dragged through the terrain.
So would that lead you to believe this is sandy or more like a talcum
Sandy
powder?
or finer grained.
Yeah.
Either one of those two is possible.
Yeah.
This particular image is looking towards the right rear of the rover, over our right secondary solar array.
You know, we have
This was the direction that we drove off in Spirit.
scientifically tonight on this.
So exciting, so exciting.
Justin,
Yeah,
can you
look
put
at
back
that.
up an image
There's some
that has
sort of
this
structure
outcrop?
in there.
Copy that.
The outcrop is
That's the one right
that.
there.
I mean, this is
no,
real.
that
This
was
is
the nav
they
camera.
keep going through them so quickly. There's so many to
Again,
choose
these
from.
could be layers.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's one that was way back, which showed that white layer that you were commenting about.
Yeah,
these
there
guys.
we go. This one right there.
This we think is outcrop right in there,
Yeah.
there, and there, and there, and we believe that's that white corrugated stuff.
And this is all
Corrugated, really?
Well, that was that white stuff, that mottled stuff we could see coming in, and that's just cropping out. That looks like a slabby, it could be outcrop or some kind of duracrust or something.
I say that outcrop is a fairly
Listen to Steve
attractive
Squires
first
for a
reverse target, you think?
Sure would be. That's where we're
You can
going.
agree on that one?
Oh, yeah, because
Pretty
the
safe to
first
say.
thing you'll go and you'll look at the dark stuff, and then you'll want to go look at the white stuff.
How far a distance is from here to there?
Oh, of order 10 meters, something
that's
like
all.
that.
That's
Maybe
all.
it could be 20. It's hard to
That's all the
tell.
data we're going
That's
to get
good. So
from
that's
Mars.
well within the range.
Oh, yeah. No problem here. And this is taken before the pan cam is moved up. We're
Yeah.
looking down the axis here.
Right.
So,
What a privilege to be part of this.
There they are. NASA Administrator Sean O'Keefe, far left of your screen in maroon. Dr. Charles Alachi in blue, head of the Jet Propulsion Lab. Pete Tysinger, the man running this program here. All of them savoring a moment and entitled to do so after successfully traveling some 500 million kilometers to the surface of Mars, successfully coming within 25 kilometers of a
20
bullseye.
kilometers of the center, actually 12 from the actual ellipse center, and producing a landing site that is unlike any place we have been to before.
It's pretty amazing when you do the math on that kind of navigation, but then to plunk yourself
and
right in the spot.
And to predict the characteristics of the site. There it is, just what we said.
All of the PanCam postcard, and we got we completed the PanCam Cal, the 2107.
Okay, so I think that's pretty much all we're going to see in the way of images on this first go-round.
Now, they will put these together in a mosaic, which I will go back and look at very furtively.
You've got some scientific eye candy here. Look at this.
I've already done a first look down now. You can see it's sort of a self-portrait. There's the solar panels there and there, looking out at that brighter material out in the horizon here. And the bounce marks here and there. There's the bounce. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's something.
Just awesome. Just awesome.
Another rover on Mars, it would appear.
All right. Well, I think that's an understatement of tonight. 2 rovers on Mars. One of them performing well. The other one in the process of being resuscitated. NASA is optimistic they'll be able to do that. I know Matt is as well. We're going to keep watching it from here, but I believe that's all we're going to see in the way of images. We will leave it at that with that team savoring the moment as a new page in Martian exploration is opened here. Shihab?
Thank you, Miles. Miles O'Brien there, and the first pictures of a portion of equatorial Mars. Well worth missing the first 27 minutes of Larry King Live, I hope. But you will now be rejoining that for viewers of CNN International. Viewers in the US now will get Talk Asia, I believe, after a break.
This has been a CNN live event.
And we have a report that the data is flowing.
Okay, we're getting data. Getting data. Excited now.
Here's mission control. We're starting to get stuff.
Okay, waiting on those first pictures.
Go to ACS.
We show a tilt of 5.46 degrees, most of that in pitch, nose up. 5.1 degrees pitch, 1.8 degrees in roll.
Copy that.
And the tilt high watermark is 120.03 degrees.
Consistent with the plus Y down.
Flight, this is Fall.
Go ahead, Fault.
I have one red monitor that is expected. Just forgot that it was going to happen here. It was flying in. It was the off-sun angle that tripped. We're pre-land intercept nominal, so EDL is no longer in control, and the Earth is in control.
Copy that. We have a master running, and everything green as far as the surface cares.
Flight power.
Go ahead, power.
Power's got 32.6 volts on the bus.
Copy that. Solar ray current.
Rover ray current is 0.75 amps. RPDU current 2.4 amps. And both pyro systems are enabled.
Copy that. Have we gotten a solar ray wake-up lockout on the BCB yet?
Flight power, that's affirmative. Also, the charge and discharge FETs are both enabled.
Copy that. So we can wake up on the sun.
We're hearing very good news.
Go ahead, mechanical.
We have confirmed solar ray deployment, MDD
Well,
deployment.
We heard
ARA
very good power
positions indicate
level,
white pedal
so
down.
indicates
Give
the
it to
solar
the
panels are
LPA
deployed
are
and
in
generating
proper
power.
position.
Mechanical, that's the best news I've heard so far today.
Flight thermal. Flight imaging.
Oh.
This is
Wow, look at that. There we are.
What view is this? Can you see?
A first look at a new world.
Could you repeat that, please, imaging?
Rear Hascam thumbnail on the screen.
It's a rear
Stand by for more
Hascam.
images.
Copy that.
ACS?
Go ahead, ACS.
I'm showing 26 degrees for the yaw.
26 for yaw already.
Wow.
Full nav cam's coming down now.
Oh. We have another thumbnail here.
Flight thermal.
The larger one is the rear view.
Go ahead, thermal.
Rear has.
All the temperatures look nominal. Comparing to Murray, we're about 4 degrees warmer inside the REM, which is consistent with a side pedal down.
Copy that.
There's our first look.
Flight
Oh,
image.
wow. Awesome. Awesome. I've never before seen the world. Never before seen the world. These are the rear Hascam images. We're looking out the back of the rover at a new Martian terrain.
And the terrain does look different.
It does look different.
I don't see the rocks we saw at Gusev Crater.
It's hard to tell, but it does look
PI
quite
flight.
smooth. The images
Got
are
any
distorted
comments
because
yet?
of the fisheye
A lot of
optics.
photography on the horizon. There's some small stuff in close, but holy smokes.
What is this?
Copy that. Looking at the -X pedal of the lander. This is to our left. You can see in the rear Hascam images the airbag out there. We do have an egress aid tip in the air, which is not unexpected for plus Y down.
Oh. There's a look at the ground nearby. Some features on there. I don't know if that's airbag compressions or what that might be. We need to wait for the high resolution images to figure it out.
Next navcam picture up here, right navcam, looking towards the plus.
This is all
X
great news.
side
I mean,
of the
everything's working
lander
so
or
well.
the
And
front
this is
and
a
to the right.
repeat of what we had
Showing
before.
clear egress aids in the front.
You know, this tells us that the rover is functioning as planned. As we heard earlier, everything was green, meaning that there are no problems are detected. And obviously from these pictures, we see that the cameras are working beautifully.
They're saying they're teasing him.
We know who is in control here.
The imaging lead is putting up all these pictures. And
See a horizon there?
yes, that is sort of the horizon. The images have to be stretched a little bit.
We have the free-deploy navcam image showing very interesting terrain in front of us.
Beautiful. We're seeing something for the first time here. I mean, no human eyes have ever seen before what we're seeing right now.
And we're looking at the opposite side of Mars.
That's right, opposite from
So
where
much
we
for
were
this landing site being flat.
It is very flat. Are we doing a mosaic now?
Yeah, now we're starting to reconstruct a mosaic. So this is one of the parts of the mosaic. So we can see more of the horizon. The image is distorted because of the optics.
I wanted to confirm.
But it's starting to reveal what's there.
Mechanical leads, assessment.
And clearly we can see the lander in the foreground, the horizon,
Copy
in
that.
the
Let them know we're
distance.
pitched nose up, 5 degrees.
Absolute flat surface.
Wow.
More pieces being added to the mosaic as the frames come down. They can put more puzzles into this panorama that you're seeing being made.
You can see the mast right there still lying down.
But I'm really interested in the features that we see very close to the horizon.
Yes, yeah, now's the time I say welcome
You to
Mariani.
tell from this resolution, but there's it looks like a lot of exciting things there.
There's Steve Squires and Richard Ford.
I hope you enjoy your stay.
I think once again we will not be disappointed by this landing site.
Maybe we did. It looks like we drive out of
So one more time, the human species is exploring a new world. Very angular formations to those rocks. It almost looks like a tiled patio out there. They're very different from our first landing site. Oh, I think the scientists are going to be very, very busy. I don't think people are going to get much sleep tonight. Not that they got any sleep last night either.
More of the mosaics coming in.
You know, 3 weeks ago was an incredible accomplishment, and it would be hard to surpass that. Although tonight, I think we might just, surpass the accomplishments of 3 weeks ago with it.
Well, what's interesting here, it looks completely foreign. What we saw at Grissom Crater almost felt a little familiar.
Yeah, this does look very different from any of the previous landing sites, either Viking, Pathfinder, or from Spirit. This is a very different location. And this is wonderful from a scientific point of view because we can look at testing different hypotheses and we can compare and contrast the two sites. Mars has misled us and confused us so many times and has fooled us, and now we get a chance to really test the metal of the planet as to whether it can fool us again. Wow,
those formations in the upper edge.
Straight looks pretty good.
It's hard for me to tell, but what's striking here is that the ground surrounding the lander looks very free of rocks, very smooth,
region behind the rover.
somewhat dark, although it's hard to tell
It does look
relative
darker than
contrast because
even in the black and white.
These images need to be calibrated. But it does look like a very different landing site. And we wanted 2 different landing sites.
Exactly.
I mean, when they did this selection of oh, perfect shot. Oh. Very devoid of rocks. A smooth, flowing surface with lots of small puck marks. Wow. Look at that. The scientists must be running wild. I mean, this is our first glimpse of
I believe that
very unusual
that PanCam image is looking at the end of the plus Y secondary, and now would be a good time for our PI's assessment of what we're looking at.
Yeah, that's cool.
I couldn't hear what he said, but probably something like those beautiful.
The explorers must be extremely excited right now.
Well, I think there's probably 190 scientists that are extremely excited, plus 150 engineers. This is a great accomplishment. Once again, no one has ever seen this before. No human being has ever seen what we're seeing here for the first time. What a privilege it is to witness this and to be part of it.
Der Jubel des NASA-Teams kennt keine Grenzen. Pünktlich um 6:05 Uhr unserer Zeit landet der zweite Mars-Rover auf dem roten Planeten. Wir bekommen sehr starke Signale, die Bestätigung an das Jet Propulsion Laboratory im kalifornischen Pasadena. Die NASA auf Erfolgskurs. Da will Kaliforniens Gouverneur Arnold Schwarzenegger nicht fehlen. Die Bilder machen sich gut zur besten Sendezeit. Auf der anschließenden Pressekonferenz noch immer schäumt die Freude über. NASA-Boss Sean O'Keefe schenkt seinem Weltraumchef ein. Ich habe mich auf eine Beerdigung vorbereitet, sagt Ed Weiler. Stattdessen haben wir in den vergangenen 48 Stunden die Wiederauferstehung von Spirit und die Geburt eines zweiten Rovers erlebt. Kurz vor der Landung von Opportunity war es NASA-Ingenieuren nach 60 erfolglosen Versuchen gelungen, das Computersystem von Spirit zu reaktivieren. Opportunity taucht mit 5400 Metern in der Sekunde in die Marsatmosphäre ein, von Bremsraketen und Fallschirmen abgebremst und von Prallsäcken geschützt, schlägt der Rover sicher in der Meridiani-Tiefebene auf. Opportunity landet in einer vollkommen anderen Umgebung als sein Zwilling Spirit vor 3 Wochen, auf der gegenüberliegenden Seite des Planeten. In einer relativ staubfreien Gegend. Der Boden ist nicht rot, sondern eher dunkelgrau oder schwarz. Grund sind die dort vermuteten reichen Vorkommen des Minerals Hämatit. In den kommenden 3 Monaten soll Opportunity ebenfalls nach Wasser suchen und Gesteinsproben entnehmen. Vom Mars wird es demnächst also noch mehr Nachrichten geben.
Und am Telefon begrüße ich nun Ralf Jaumann vom Deutschen Zentrum für Luft- und Raumfahrt. Er ist Projektleiter des Kameraexperiments der Mars-Express-Mission und er kann uns Näheres zu diesem neuen Erfolg der NASA sagen. Guten Morgen, Herr Jaumann.
Guten Tag.
Wir blenden jetzt mal die ersten Bilder ein, die Opportunity zur Erde gesendet hat. Können Sie uns genauer erklären, was wir da sehen?
Wir sehen auf diesem Bild einmal, dass die Oberfläche wirklich um einiges dunkler ist, als wir das an der Spirit-Landestelle sehen. Und wir sehen eine ganze Reihe von Steinen im Hintergrund. Das hier ist ein Bild, das zeigt die Landesonde von oben drauf geschaut. Und man sieht, dass alle Systeme weitgehend einwandfrei sind, sodass da keine großen Schwierigkeiten zu erwarten sind. Das, was da eingezeichnet wird, sind im Grunde genommen die wichtigen Überlebenssysteme dieser Landesonde. Das ist einmal die Solarpanels, wo die Energie erzeugt wird. Und man sieht, dass alles eigentlich in normalem Zustand ist.
Ja, da sehen wir jetzt die Wissenschaftler, wie sie diese ersten Bilder ebenfalls analysieren. Vielleicht noch ein bisschen mehr zu der Stelle, an der jetzt Opportunity ausgesetzt wurde. Was ist das Besondere denn an dieser Stelle?
Diese Stelle zeigt eigentlich schon auch aus dem Orbit eine Zusammensetzung, die sehr eisenreich ist. Dort kommen Minerale vor, die eigentlich nur dann entstehen können, wenn Grundwasser mit vulkanischer Lava in Verbindung tritt. Und das ist natürlich sehr interessant. Einmal, weil man Prozesse des Grundwassers, weil man Prozesse des Wassers untersuchen kann an dieser Landestelle, aber natürlich auch, weil man vulkanische Vorgänge untersuchen kann.
Dankeschön, Herr Jaumann, für diese Einschätzung für den Moment.
Welcome back. NASA's second Mars rover has bounced successfully onto the red planet and has started sending back its first pictures. One scientist called Opportunity's landing area the most bizarre alien place he'd ever laid eyes on. For more, we turn to our space correspondent, Miles O'Brien, who joins us live from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. Good to see you, Miles.
Thank you very much, Toomey. It's been quite an exciting night here. Overnight local time. Opportunity defied the odds here and landed safely on the surface of the red planet on the opposite side from the rover Spirit. For the second time in 3 weeks, NASA got a good bounce in an unforgiving place.
We're on Mars, everybody.
Robotically, at least. After a journey of 300 million miles, the rover Opportunity knocked on Mars' doorstep, hitting the ground only 15 miles from a bullseye. And within hours, it was sending back proof it had arrived in a Mars we have never seen before.
What a night. I mean, as the old saying goes, it's far better to be lucky than good. But you know, the harder we work, the luckier we seem to get.
Opportunity is the identical twin of the crippled Spirit rover, but has landed in a very different place called the Meridiani Planum. Nearly free of dust and rocks, the plain brims with outcroppings and hematite, a semi-precious mineral that could be a Rosetta Stone in the hunt for ancient water and thus life.
We are going to see minerals screaming out at us. We see outcrops directly there. There's at least 2 different geologic units, if not more, as well as the soils at the site. This is just a target rich for geologic investigations.
The successful landing comes after yet another improbable and yet flawless arrival on Mars. Using a heat shield, parachute, braking rockets, and airbags, the rover slowed from 16,000 miles an hour to 0 in less than 6 minutes. Then after bouncing along the surface, emerged from its cocoon, righted itself, and got down to business taking pictures of its new home.
I am flabbergasted. I'm astonished. I'm blown away. Opportunity has touched down in a bizarre and alien landscape.
Opportunity's arrival comes as the engineering team works to revive the Spirit rover, which mysteriously conked out on Wednesday. The team now believes the problem is in the computer's flash memory. They've devised a way to bypass the memory so that Spirit will stop constantly rebooting and will go to sleep at night. They are increasingly optimistic it will be roving and researching in a few weeks.
I came here prepared for a funeral, basically. And instead, in the last 48 hours, talk about a roller coaster ride. We resurrected one rover, and we saw the birth of another today.
A lot of people in the team were concerned at the end of this night they would be fighting a two-front war on Mars. Instead, there's pretty good optimism here. Within a couple of weeks, they'll instead have two rovers moving on Mars simultaneously. Toomey?
Now, of course, as far as Spirit is concerned, it sort of came unexpectedly that the communications went haywire, if you will. How able will they be to prevent a similar thing happening with Opportunity?
Well, it's going to be very interesting as they diagnose the problem on Spirit. If it turns out there was some specific problem with a piece of hardware, it's very likely that was sort of a one-off event. If, in fact, it just comes down to a bug in the software and they can identify that bug, whatever patch they feed up to Spirit, they might very well feed up to Opportunity to prevent a similar situation where they lose communication so rapidly and so suddenly.
All right, Miles, thank you very much.
This is what they've been waiting for. The first pictures from NASA's latest robotic visitor to the Martian surface. It's touched down in a spot unlike anywhere explored by probes before, and scientists at Mission Control couldn't be more delighted.
I am flabbergasted. I'm astonished. I'm blown away. Opportunity has touched down in a bizarre and alien landscape.
The images reveal a very flat landscape with a rocky outcrop in the distance. You can see the depressions made in the surface as the robot bounced to a halt, and there are strange marks on the soil that the rover may be sent to investigate. This is the landing site, a smooth plain near the Martian equator. There's a mineral on the ground called hematite, and scientists believe that suggests there may once have been water here and possibly life. It'll be over a week before the robot is ready to drive off and start exploring. The plan is to spend 3 months studying the rocks and soil. But halfway around Mars is a reminder that interplanetary exploration isn't easy. NASA's probe Spirit is still suffering from serious computer problems, and it could be 3 weeks before it's fully operational once again. So there's huge relief that the second lander has arrived safely, and so far it seems to be working perfectly. Christine McGurty, BBC News.
Und bei mir im Studio ist Ralf Jaumann vom Deutschen Zentrum für Luft- und Raumfahrt. Er ist Projektleiter des Kameraexperiments der Mars-Express-Mission. Schön, dass Sie bei uns sind. Lassen Sie uns doch noch mal zusammen die Bilder anschauen, die Opportunity heute zur Erde gesendet hat. Wir werden mal schauen, welche Bilder hier eingespielt werden. Vielleicht können Sie uns die etwas näher erklären, denn für uns Laien ist da noch nicht so viel zu erkennen, muss ich ganz ehrlich sagen.
Für uns ist natürlich sehr viel zu erkennen, aber es ist alles noch ein bisschen ungenau. Also man sieht, dass die Gegend ist nicht so mit Steinen überdeckt, wie wir das bei allen anderen Landungen gesehen haben. Das, was man da in diesem Bild im Hintergrund sieht, das sind Gesteinsformationen, die möglicherweise Basalte sind. Möglicherweise sind es aber auch andere Sedimente. Ansonsten ist die ganze Gegend von einer Art dunklen Sand bedeckt, der vermutlich etwas mit den eisenhaltigen Ablagerungen zu tun hat, die an dieser Landestelle vermutet werden. Im Großen und Ganzen ist da sehr, sehr viel Spannung in dieser Landestelle, und man kann jetzt eigentlich gar nicht schnell genug darauf warten, bis der Spirit losfährt, bis der Opportunity losfährt und die ersten Untersuchungen macht.
Warum war dieser zweite Roboter denn jetzt überhaupt notwendig? Es gibt ja schon einen auf dem Mars.
Dafür gibt es zwei Gründe. Einmal gibt es zwei Gegenden, in denen man nach Wasser sucht. Die eine ist ein möglicherweise ausgetrockneter See, dort ist Spirit. Das zweite ist eine Gegend, wo Grundwasser und vulkanische Aktivität zusammengekommen sind. Also zwei unterschiedliche Formen des Wassers, die man sucht. Aber man hat natürlich auch den Sicherheitsgedanken da bei der NASA sehr, sehr weit nach vorne geschoben und gesagt, zwei sind besser als einer.
Nun ist die deutsche Forschung ja nicht ganz unbeteiligt an diesem NASA-Erfolg. Was haben Sie dazu beigetragen?
Deutschland hat, die Max-Planck-Gesellschaft hat 2 Experimente beigetragen und die Universität Mainz ein Experiment. Die beschäftigen sich in erster Linie mit der chemischen Untersuchung von Gesteinen und mit der Mikroskopie von Gesteinen. Und wenn man bedenkt, dass eigentlich nur 5 Experimente auf Opportunity sind und auch Spirit, dann ist 3 Experimente ein hoher deutscher Anteil, der dabei ist.
Herzlichen Dank, Ralf Jaumann, für diese Informationen.
NASA ist in Sektlaune, denn jetzt ist auch die zweite Sonde Opportunity auf dem Mars gelandet. Damit sind erstmals in der Geschichte der Raumfahrt 2 Landeroboter auf dem roten Planeten aktiv. 3 Wochen nach dem Rover Spirit landete sein Zwilling Opportunity auf der entgegengesetzten Seite des Mars und sandte schon Stunden später spektakuläre Bilder. Mick Locher.
Der Mars-Geländeroboter Opportunity. Wie hier im Labor soll er bald vorsichtig über die Rückseite des Mars rollen. Die 400 Millionen $ Konstruktion ging heute Morgen um kurz nach 6 Uhr unserer Zeit auf Landekurs. Fallschirme und Bremsraketen verringerten die Geschwindigkeit. Dann hopste der Laborjeep gut verstaut in Airbags über die Oberfläche, begann gleich zu arbeiten und funkte verblüffende Fotos zur Erde. Die Wissenschaftler waren überwältigt. Ich bin verblüfft, ich bin völlig weg. Opportunity ist in einer völlig fremdartigen Landschaft gelandet. Als ich die ersten Funkbilder sah, versuchte ich Worte zu finden, um Ihnen zu erklären, was wir da sehen. Ich kann es noch nicht, ich weiß nicht, was wir da sehen. Es ist ein schöner, fremder Ort, eine Welt, wie wir sie noch nie sahen. Opportunitys Bordkamera fing eine bizarre Umgebung ein. Vermutlich steht der Mars-Jeep in einem Krater. Der felsige Untergrund ist staubbedeckt.
Opportunity ist in einem Gebiet gelandet, wo man sehr viel Eisenvorkommen findet, die höchstwahrscheinlich im Zusammenspiel zwischen Grundwasser und vulkanischer Tätigkeit entstanden sind.
3 Monate soll der Wagen auf Erkundungsfahrt gehen. Für die USA ist ihre unbemannte Mars-Mission bereits erfolgreich. Im Missionszentrum in Pasadena gratulierte den Wissenschaftlern Kaliforniens Gouverneur Arnold Schwarzenegger. Das vor 3 Wochen auf dem Mars gelandete Zwillingsauto Spirit hat währenddessen weiter Probleme mit der Software.
Der Roboter der NASA Opportunity ist sicher auf dem roten Planeten gelandet. Direkt nach dem Touchdown funkte er die ersten Bilder zur Erde. Nach einer mehrtägigen Unterbrechung hat die NASA auch wieder Kontakt zu Spirit, dem baugleichen Bruder von Opportunity. Aufgabe der beiden Roboter die Suche nach Wasser auf dem Mars.
7:15, hier ist RTL aktuell. Freudentaumel bei der NASA. Der zweite US-Roboter landet sicher auf dem Mars und sendet spektakuläre Bilder vom roten Planeten. Der 25. Januar 2004 wird in die Geschichte der Raumfahrt eingehen und die NASA hat allen Grund zum Jubeln. Kurz nach 6 Uhr mitteleuropäischer Zeit erreichte der Landeroboter mit dem Namen Opportunity den Mars. Gemeinsam mit Spirit sind damit zum ersten Mal gleich 2 US-Roboter auf dem roten Planeten aktiv. Und der seit Tagen unterbrochene Kontakt zu Spirit ist ebenfalls wiederhergestellt. Michael K. berichtet.
Im NASA-Kontrollraum in Pasadena entluden sich die Anspannung und Ängste von Monaten binnen Sekunden in Tränenausbrüchen und überschwänglicher Freude. Auch Kaliforniens Gouverneur Schwarzenegger ließ es sich nicht nehmen, diesen historischen Moment mitzuerleben. Haben wir bei der Spirit-Landung vor 3 Wochen nicht mit einer wunderschönen Tradition begonnen? Also weiter so, sagte der Big Boss und ließ Champagner fließen. 7 Monate, so lange war der Mars-Roboter unterwegs, hatten die NASA-Leute diesem Tag entgegengefiebert. Die Animation zeigt, wie Opportunity mit einer Geschwindigkeit von 21.000 Stundenkilometern glühend in die Mars-Atmosphäre eindringt, dann abgebremst wird und schließlich, geschützt durch Prallsäcke, auf der Mars-Oberfläche aufsetzt. Dass diese Mission durchaus auch hätte scheitern können, war allen Ingenieuren klar. Ihr Boss brachte die Erleichterung auf den Punkt. Als ich herkam, war ich auf eine Beerdigung gefasst. Aber nach einer 2-tägigen wahren Achterbahnfahrt haben wir einen Rover wiederbelebt und feiern die Geburt eines zweiten. Und was Opportunity schon nach wenigen Stunden auf die Erde funkte, übertraf auch die kühnsten Erwartungen der NASA-Leute. Die faszinierenden Fotos zeigen das Landegebiet in der Meridianer-Tiefebene. Von Spirit aus betrachtet, genau auf der entgegengesetzten Seite des Mars. Von hier gab es bisher noch gar keine Bilder. Auf einigen Fotos ist die Landehülle des Rovers vor der Marslandschaft zu erkennen. Die NASA-Wissenschaftler hoffen, in diesem Gebiet Eisenerz nachweisen zu können. Und wie sein Zwilling Spirit wird auch Opportunity nach Wasser und nach Spuren von Leben suchen.
Die Erfolgsmeldung kam am Freitag. Die europäische Sonde Mars Express hat auf unserem Nachbarplaneten Wasser entdeckt. In Form von Wasserdampf in der Atmosphäre und als Polkappeneis. Damit ist die Frage, ob es auf dem Mars jemals Leben gegeben hat, so aktuell wie nie. Allerdings ungeklärt und ungewiss ist noch, ob es jemals flüssiges Wasser gegeben hat auf dem Mars, denn das wäre natürlich die Grundlage für die Entstehung von Leben. Eine Antwort auf die Frage finden könnten die NASA-Rover Spirit und Opportunity.
Heute Morgen 6:05 Uhr mitteleuropäischer Zeit im Kontrollzentrum Pasadena, Kalifornien. Der NASA-Roboter Opportunity ist sicher auf dem Mars gelandet. Und er sendet bereits die ersten Bilder. Ein weiterer Meilenstein in der 40-jährigen Geschichte der amerikanischen Marsforschung.
3, 2, the engine started. We have ignition. We have liftoff.
Im letzten Jahr hat die NASA europäische Konkurrenz bekommen. Am 2. Juni 2003 startete die erste Marssonde der ESA zum roten Planeten. Mars Express erreichte nach knapp 7 Monaten Reise die Umlaufbahn unseres Nachbarplaneten. Mit an Bord Hightech, die den Planeten nach Wasser absuchen soll. Die hochentwickelten Kameras des Orbiters erfassen die gesamte Marsoberfläche zum ersten Mal dreidimensional und in einer nie dagewesenen Qualität. Am Freitag dann die Sensation. Mars Express entdeckt gefrorenes Wasser am Südpol und Wasserdampf in der Atmosphäre. Was die Forscher bisher nur annahmen, ist jetzt wissenschaftlich bewiesen. Es gibt Wasser auf dem Mars. Vermutlich haben gewaltige Wassermengen in der Vergangenheit auch diese Canyons geschaffen. Gab es vielleicht auch einmal Leben auf dem roten Planeten? Die Grundlage allen Lebens ist flüssiges Wasser. Nur dort können sich Aminosäuren, die Grundbausteine des Lebens, spontan bilden. Verbinden sie sich miteinander, entstehen Proteine. Und Proteine steuern Zellen. Sie geben zum Beispiel den Befehl zur Zellteilung. Auf keinem anderen Planeten unseres Sonnensystems sind die Voraussetzungen für die Entstehung von Leben so gut wie auf dem Mars. Er ist der Erde am ähnlichsten. Es gibt dort eine Atmosphäre und die Temperaturen sind nicht so extrem wie beispielsweise auf Venus oder Jupiter. Forscher vermuten, dass es auf dem roten Planeten einst Flüsse, Seen und sogar Meere gegeben hat. Heute ist davon in den Sand- und Steinwüsten auf den ersten Blick nichts mehr zu sehen. Sollte die Annahme der Wissenschaftler stimmen und die gewaltigen Schluchten von Wasser geformt worden sein, müsste es aber noch irgendwo existieren. Die Forscher hoffen, es im Marsinneren zu finden. Ein Radargerät an Bord der Sonde Mars Express ist speziell für diese Suche unter der Oberfläche gebaut. Es kann noch in mehreren Kilometern Tiefe verborgene Eisschichten oder unterirdische Seen aufspüren. Solch ein Fund wäre für die Wissenschaft eine Sensation.
Wenn wir Wasser und organische Substanzen auf dem Mars entdecken, dann wissen wir, dass es möglich ist, dass Leben im Weltraum entstehen kann und konnte. Und das gibt dann Anlass zu weiteren Untersuchungen und zu weiterem Forschen. Wo kommen wir her?
Die ESA will den Mars aber nicht nur aus der Ferne erkunden, sondern auch auf seiner Oberfläche nach Wasser suchen. Dazu soll die Sonde Mars Express einen kleinen Roboter, den Beagle 2, absetzen. Zunächst verläuft alles nach Plan. Gespannt verfolgen die Wissenschaftler das Landemanöver. Das letzte Foto von Beagle 2. Ab jetzt können die Wissenschaftler nur noch hoffen, dass sich der Bremsfallschirm öffnet, die Airbags funktionieren und ihr Roboter sicher auf der Planetenoberfläche landet. Eine Hoffnung, die sich nicht erfüllt. Beagle 2 sendet keine Lebenszeichen. Mehrere Versuche, Kontakt aufzunehmen, bleiben erfolglos. Auch für die Forscher vom Deutschen Zentrum für Luft- und Raumfahrt, DLR, ein schmerzhafter Verlust. Dr. Lutz Richter hat ein spezielles Bohrsystem entwickelt, das sich an Bord von Beagle 2 befindet.
Bei der Landung von Beagle gibt es mehrere Fehlerquellen, die aufgetreten sein können. Zum Beispiel der Fallschirm hat sich nicht geöffnet, nicht richtig aufgefüllt mit Luft beim Abstieg. Oder die Airbags zur Aufpralldämpfung sind nicht richtig aufgeblasen worden. Oder auch das Gelände war ungünstig dort, wo der erste Aufprall stattgefunden hat.
Eigentlich sollte der Roboter das Bohrsystem entfalten, um damit im Marsinneren nach Spuren von Wasser und Leben suchen zu können. Jetzt wird Lutz Richter vielleicht niemals erfahren, ob sich seine 5-jährige Entwicklungsarbeit gelohnt hat.
Ich habe die Hoffnung schon aufgegeben, dass man Kontakt jemals aufnehmen wird mit dem Beagle. Nach allem, was man bisher annehmen kann, weil man nie ein Signal empfangen hat, wenn man es hätte empfangen sollen, ist die einzig vernünftige Erklärung, dass der Lander bei der Landung zerstört wurde.
Beagle 2 ist nicht das erste gescheiterte Mars-Projekt. Bisher sind 2/3 aller Missionen zu unserem Nachbarplaneten fehlgeschlagen. Viele scheitern schon beim Start. Bereits in den frühen 60er Jahren versuchen Sowjets und Amerikaner vergeblich, zum Mars vorzudringen. Die amerikanische Weltraumbehörde NASA schafft den Durchbruch zuerst. 1971 erreicht die Sonde Mariner vor den roten Planeten. Sie liefert spektakuläre Fotos von der Oberfläche des Mars. Aber schon nach kurzer Zeit bricht der Funkkontakt ab. Mariner 4 bleibt verschollen. Schon 4 Jahre später sorgen die Missionen Viking 1 und 2 für eine Sensation. Beiden Sonden gelingt es, auf dem Planeten zu landen. Sie funken mehr als 50.000 Fotos zurück zur Erde. Aus ihnen entsteht die erste komplette Karte vom Mars. Und Viking entdeckt vereiste Polkappen. Das gibt der Forschung einen Schub. Bestehen sie aus gefrorenem Wasser? In den nächsten 20 Jahren erleidet die NASA allerdings immer wieder Rückschläge. Allein im Jahr 1999 verliert sie gleich 2 Raumsonden, den Mars Polar Lander und den Climate Orbiter. Eine neue Technik soll die Landung sicherer machen. Die Weltraumbehörde experimentiert mit Airbags. Die Tests verlaufen erfolgreich. Ab jetzt sollen die Luftkissen bei jeder Landung eingesetzt werden. Am 10. Juni 2003 startet die NASA ihre jüngste Mission, Mars Exploration Rover. An Bord der Sonde Spirit, ein kleiner Roboter. Am 4. Dezember letzten Jahres beginnt das heikle Landemanöver. Fallschirm und Airbags funktionieren perfekt. Spirit landet unversehrt auf der Planetenoberfläche. Die von ihm aufgenommenen Panoramafotos gehen um die Welt. Seine eigentliche Arbeit, die Suche nach Wasser, kann er wegen technischer Probleme erst mit einigen Tagen Verzögerung aufnehmen. Findet Spirit Hinweise auf Wasser abseits der Pole, ist bewiesen, dass es einst fließendes Wasser auf dem Mars gab. Dazu hobelt er die Oberfläche von Gesteinsbrocken ab, um deren chemische Zusammensetzung zu analysieren. Mit 2 in Deutschland gebauten Spektrometern durchleuchtet Spirit die Probe und funkt die Ergebnisse zur Erde. Bis heute hat der Roboter aber noch keine Spuren von Wasser im Boden des Mars finden können. Grundvoraussetzung für eine bemannte Mars-Mission. Trotzdem schmieden Wissenschaftler solche Pläne. Allen voran die Amerikaner.
Wir werden neue Raumschiffe bauen, die den Menschen ins Weltall bringen. Zunächst, um eine Station auf dem Mond zu bauen. Dann werden wir für neue Schritte bereit sein, einer bemannten Mission zum Mars.
Mehrere Astronauten sollen die Reise, eingezwängt auf engstem Raum, in 9 Monaten bewältigen. Dort angekommen, müssen sie sich auf einen Aufenthalt von 1,5 Jahren einrichten. So lange dauert es, bis die Planetenkonstellation zwischen Erde und Mars einen Rückflug ermöglicht. Bis die Weltraumorganisationen diese Pläne in die Realität umsetzen können, werden noch mindestens 20 Jahre vergehen. Der Wettkampf, wer den ersten Menschen auf den Mars bringt, hat begonnen.
Mars-Sonden haben auf der Vorderseite des roten Planeten keine grünen Männchen entdeckt. Deshalb haben die Amerikaner heute eine weitere Sonde auf die Rückseite des Mars landen lassen. Der Glaube an Marsmenschen stammt von dem Astronomen Schiaparelli, der 1877 glaubte, auf dem Mars ein Netz langer Kanäle entdeckt zu haben, die nur von menschenähnlichen Wesen stammen konnten. Doch bei näherem Hinsehen gibt es auch auf der Rückseite weder Kanäle noch grüne Kerle. Ingo Zamparoni.
Und so sieht es auf der anderen Seite des Mars aus. Die Landestelle von Opportunity wesentlich glatter als die des vor 3 Wochen gelandeten Zwillingsmodells Spirit. Deutlich zu erkennen, die Spuren der runden Aufprallkissen auf der scheinbar feinsandigen Oberfläche. Die Wissenschaftler sind begeistert von der ungewöhnlichen Beschaffenheit des Marsbodens rund um Opportunity. Die wenigen Hindernisse versprechen reibungslose Ausflüge. Das hätte ich mir nur in meinen kühnsten Träumen so vorgestellt. Das ist der wissenschaftliche Jackpot. Lasst uns an die Arbeit gehen. Besonders eine noch nie gesehene Felsformation in unmittelbarer Nähe erregt das Interesse. Diese Bilder sendete Opportunity erst vor knapp 2 Stunden. Die Wissenschaftler vermuten dort ein hohes Hämatitvorkommen. Das eisenhaltige Mineral tritt meist in Verbindung mit Wasser auf und könnte weitere Hinweise auf die Möglichkeit von Leben auf dem Mars liefern. Zum Landeerfolg vergangene Nacht gratulierte der Gouverneur von Kalifornien, Arnold Schwarzenegger, persönlich. In den Jubel mischte sich auch Hoffnung für Spirit, der seit Mittwoch nicht mehr richtig reagiert. Die NASA glaubt, die Ursache für das Problem gefunden zu haben und rechnet damit, bald erstmals von 2 Robotern gleichzeitig Daten vom Mars zu empfangen.
Bullseye for geologists with a 1-in-a-million landing. Miles O'Brien explains.
It's the kind of opportunity the mission team dreamed of. A robot geologist smack dab in the middle of a crater on the surface of Mars, exposed rocks all around, just waiting to tell their story.
What has happened is we have scored a 300 million mile interplanetary hole-in-one, and we are actually inside a small impact crater.
60 feet across, 6 feet deep, the crater may offer nearly one-stop shopping for scientists on the rover Opportunity team. All the features they could hope to explore may be right here. A dark surface, possibly sprinkled with hematite, a mineral that may be a Rosetta Stone for ancient water, and an outcropping of rocks whose layers may be tantamount to pages in a Martian history book.
A white outcrop on the rim of the crater is a geologist's treasure trove.
As it fell toward Mars, Opportunity snapped 3 images of the surface as it rose to meet it. This dot is the shadow of the parachute. Opportunity did not land in the large crater, but in another one somewhere in the bottom of this image. The soil appears to be very fine. Opportunity left distinct imprints as it bounced and retracted its airbag. The landing site is on the opposite side of the planet from its twin, the Spirit rover, which landed 3 weeks ago and remains crippled while engineers troubleshoot what now appears to be a software glitch.
The software people are on a hot track of a problem, so it may be difficult to get them rest. I think we're kind of on the way to a normal recovery here, and I think we have a very good chance now that we'll have a very good rover when we get done getting this thing back up.
They are confident because, unlike hardware, software can be fixed from the ground by sending up a patch. Still, the engineers here are being cautious. They say it will be at least 3 weeks before Spirit is rolling again. By that time, Opportunity should be exploring its crater as well. Miles O'Brien, CNN, Pasadena, California.
NASA has a lot to think about these days. It's getting another opportunity, if you want to call it that, to see parts of the red planet it hadn't seen before.
And that, Jim, is thanks to a picture-perfect landing for its new rover that's dubbed Opportunity. Our space correspondent Miles O'Brien is in Pasadena, California with the latest. Miles?
Zane and Jim, it was quite a weekend here at the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena. Opportunity knocked, and Mars answered with quite a treat for the scientists here. Turns out after a 500 million kilometer ride, Opportunity ended up in a crater about 20 meters across. Talk about a hole-in-one. Take a look at these pictures from the descent camera, captured as the craft was a couple of kilometers above the surface of the planet. And as you look down here in the lower part of your screen, you see 2 little craters. They believe that Opportunity is in one of those small craters there. Up here on the upper right-hand portion of your screen, there you see the shadow of the parachute near that much larger crater. It's possible that when they get rolling, they may go in that direction, but too early to say for sure. They sure do like where they are. As a matter of fact, they released just a little while ago a color image, a 360-degree panorama of this crater. And what they find most interesting is in the right-hand portion of the screen here, these are rock outcroppings, or bedrock, which for geologists are just what you want to go after, rocks that haven't been moved. In other words, they tell the history of that place in place. And so there's a good chance when the rover moves, before it heads off beyond that crater, it'll head in that direction, taking a look at some of those rock outcroppings, as well as this very interesting soil in the foreground, which has kind of got a talcum powder-like appearance to it in the way that it has captured the marks of the bouncing ball of Opportunity, as well as the marks from the retraction of the airbags. You can see those here in the foreground. In the meantime, on the other side of the planet, things are looking up for the Spirit rover, which, as you recall, midweek last week had a serious software meltdown. going through a series of resets, and it caused a big mystery here among the engineering team. With us to talk about what appears to be a breakthrough in all this is Jennifer Trosper. She is the mission manager for the rover Spirit, and she's been working without rest up until this point pretty much. And really within the past half hour, your team was able to replicate this problem on a test bed, basically a full-up model of Spirit right here. And what have you been able to learn?
Well, we have a model that's almost exactly like Spirit, that we can basically put in the problem that we think we see on the vehicle and identify the same behavior. And we actually were able to do that about half an hour ago. And so we're fairly confident that this is at least one of the problems that we're having right now.
And the problem is too many files, too much saturating your RAM memory, essentially.
Yeah, essentially. We have flash where we store all of our files for when we go to sleep at night. We want to have the files when we wake up in the morning, so we store our files in flash. But the limitation is really not the flash memory. It actually turns out to be the RAM memory that it takes to manage the flash. And in fact, it's the number is smaller than we thought it was.
All right, so just to point out for people here, you've been running this system now for many months since launch, and every time you issue a command to the spacecraft, it creates a little file, and this is kind of stacked up on you.
Yeah, and we've been deleting files as a matter of course, but they've also been accumulating, and as we collect science data, we keep that science data on board until we can downlink it, either through the Odyssey UHF pass or through Mars Global Surveyor or direct to Earth. And so the files naturally accumulate based on how much we can downlink to Earth.
All right, the fact that you seem to be on the trail here, this lends a lot of credence to the thought that you might be able to get Spirit back up to normal. Is it too early to say that, though?
It's too early to say, but I think we have high confidence that that's where we're going to be in a week or two.
So deleting a few files, actually in this case hundreds of files, might be all it takes to get Spirit back up and running.
Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but in the end, that's what we need to do.
Jennifer Trosper, all right, well, good luck with that, and we hope to see Spirit and Opportunity rolling simultaneously, both sides of Mars, drawing conclusions about the planet on the hunt for water, which ultimately, Jim and Zane, leads to the hunt for life.
Miles O'Brien reporting to us there from Pasadena. As always, Miles, thanks for bringing us a little closer to Mars, understanding what's going on up there. Incredible pictures. Sometimes we take them for granted, but we really shouldn't do that. These are really incredible events that we're watching unfold in our lifetimes.